Legtsok. It's such a pleasure to meet you. Welcome to our first series of interview, and we are so privileged to have your presence here.
Okay.
And I do understand you're one of the senior most teacher at Choe Ling.
Yes.
And you've been pursuing your Deus studies for the last 16 years.
Yes.
And you know, the mere thought of studying, I've done my schooling for 18 years, scares me. So how do you manage that, and what does your program entail?
Yeah. First of all, thank you for inviting me here. Very happy to do the interview with you.
Sure.
Yeah. Why am I studying for so long? I studied for 16 years.
Wow.
To undergraduate. I got an undergraduate degree in philosophy.
Sure.
And by the end of that, I was so tired of studying. I thought I didn't want to be in school anymore. But you know, but then things changed. I learned about meditation, then I learned about Buddhism, especially in the Tibetan tradition, and then learned about the possibility of enlightenment, and kind of came to believe that that's really possible. And then, even then, I didn't want to study. I wanted to meditate, like spend time in the Himalayas with other meditators and meditate. But then, as I especially read the texts written by past Buddhist masters like Shantideva and Asanga and so forth, and Nagarjuna, then I realized if I want to be like them, to get enlightened like they did, then I have to study all the works that they wrote, because they explain how to get enlightened. So then I have to study. So then gradually I came to this monastery, Sarah Monastery, where I am now, and started studying. And then, yeah, just kept going until now.
So what does a typical day at Sarjala Monastery look like?
It's a typical day, yeah, I usually get up around 5:36 and do a little bit of exercise, then do my own meditation practice for about an hour and a half, then have breakfast around 7:30, and then usually memorize a little bit or read in the morning for about an hour, and then we have debate with our classmates, have debate from 9 to 11 most mornings, and then have lunch, then have a nap after lunch, and then again after lunch do some exercise, and then do reading, and maybe sometimes attend class and do reading until about 4:30 in the evening, 5, then have dinner, and then in the evening we go to debate. That's when we have our main, we meet with our classmates and we discuss the topic we're studying, by debating it together.
Like, what are some of the topics? What is the most heated debate that you have in your career?
Well, the most heated debates are more on logic and on the view of emptiness in shunyata in Buddhism, but like what is the ultimate nature of things? How do things actually exist? And how do we know that things exist or not? Some of the more interesting debates. But like now there's so many different topics we study over. I mean, we study for 20 years, right? So
wow.
all kinds of things we study.
Is it a fulfilling experience? I mean, do you love what you do?
Yeah, of course, yeah, I really liked it, yeah. Now we don't debate so much. Now I'm studying the monks' vows, the vows of the monastic and the monastic discipline. So there's not so much to debate, but still meeting with classmates is one of the most, things I look forward to most in my life. When I go back to the United States, even I visit with my parents, I look forward to coming back to meet my classmates again and read and discuss different things in Buddhist philosophy with them.
That's
really
awesome.
fun.
That's awesome. Just help me understand, you were born in Virginia, United States of America.
Yeah.
You come from one of the first world nations. You, of course, had a very privileged life. So, why did you give it all up, and why did you want to lead a monastic life? What was your motivation?
Yeah. Well, it's not like when I left the United States, I wanted to become a monk right away. But more like when I was growing up, I could see that, even though my parents and our family, friends are quite affluent, have cars and nice houses and can go for vacations, different places, that still, they have a lot of stress, working very difficult jobs, and they're tied down to a 30-year mortgage, paying for a big house. And in their personal relationships with each other, I mean, my own parents, most of my friends' parents, and the parents with the children, and the children with each other, mostly not very good relationships. Most people not very happy. I found. And I definitely didn't want to have that kind of lifestyle with so much pressure and stress. So then what I found most helpful in my own case was just meditation, practicing meditation, to try to cultivate some peace and some happiness in the mind. So then I wanted to learn more about meditation to be able to teach to others. So that's what brought me to India. But then when I came to India and studied Buddhism in more detail, then I realized actually the potential for a human being is not just happiness in this one life, but we take rebirth and exist from life to life to life. So, and it's possible that that we achieve full enlightenment. So, I mean, eliminate every suffering and all causes of suffering, and achieve every positive quality and all causes of perfect happiness. So then it looked like, to make that my full-time job, pursuing that, and trying to help other people like learn about meditation. This is the kind of most fulfilling life. So then I became a monk.
Oh, that's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
So, I belong to a millennial generation, and there's a growing trend. Fitness is one of the prime thing that everybody is obsessed with. You travel to any country, whether it is India, whether it's US or any part of the world. In any city, you will find a gym or a yoga center, and so fitness has really caught on. But if you see what are the top 3 illnesses that ail my generation, is definitely depression, psychotic conditions, and substance abuse. And I want to understand your perspective and your take on these mental illnesses that are really on a spike. So what's your take on that?
Yeah, well, I think like when we go to school, we take health education and we learn about nutrition. So we learn like what are healthy foods to eat and how to exercise and stay healthy, and that helps us have good physical health the rest of our life. But in most schools, we don't learn about like mental health, how to be a happy person, what are the causes of satisfaction and mental well-being and joy, and what are the causes of conflict in our relationships and depression and psychosis. Depression leads into more severe mental problems, and drug and alcohol abuse are definitely related to being unhappy. If people were perfectly happy, they wouldn't turn to drugs and alcohol for. I think most people, because they have suffering in their mind and they don't know how to deal with it, then they try to kind of numb the pain.
Absolutely.
With those things. So I think it would help a lot if I think it's because of lack of wisdom, lack of understanding about what brings happiness and what causes suffering, that then we chase after things like wealth and fame and a lot of friends, and of course a lot of friends are good, but like to an extreme that we see through social media, then we chase after things and we can become famous, have a lot of money, have a lot of possessions, but find we're still not happy inside. So then become even more unhappy. So I think it's basically because of lack of understanding that we don't know how to. Because happiness is something in our mind, right? It's not something we can find from outside. But especially our consumer culture is telling us that, to be happy you have to buy this, you have to go there, you have to wear this, you have to look like this, which are all, wrong ideas, actually. So
what do you think is the antidote to that?
Well, I think the antidote is learning to look at one's own mind and and also, it's not something. Well, to look at our own mind in the end, but we need to draw on the wisdom of the past, I think, because this problem of being unhappy, even though we have so many external circumstances, but still being unhappy is not something new that we face now. It's an ancient problem that's existed thousands of years ago. So there's lots of excellent advice in all the different religious traditions and different spiritual traditions about how to have a satisfying, fulfilling life. So one way is to look at the ancient texts from those traditions to learn about that, and another way is to look at. We should look for role models and examples of people who seem like really content, really happy, and learn about what are they doing, what is important in their life. Like if you look at the Dalai Lama, one of the things he says, and I think he lives according to, is like really try to use your life to benefit others. At least don't harm others. And use your life to really benefit others, and see all sentient beings, all other people and animals as being, as your brothers and sisters, because they're the same as you in wanting happiness and not wanting suffering. So if we take that as a basic principle for life, that all other creatures are the same as me, wanting well-being and not wanting suffering. And we really, live our life in a way that we try not to harm anyone else, and we try to benefit those we come across, even by just smiling or, saying a kind word, being polite, helping whatever we can. Then naturally, we ourselves feel happy with ourselves. We feel like I'm being a good person, I'm living a worthwhile life.
Sure.
And it brings satisfaction.
Sure. And one of the things that you did mention that led you to lead the monastic life and find true happiness, your true happiness in pursuing this path, was that you saw a lot of personal conflicts between your parents, your friends, and of course it is predominant across our society. Everybody is juggling various hats, whether professionally or personally. Everybody has so many conflicts, with their friends, their bosses, their wives, their husbands, or their boyfriend and girlfriends. And, so managing this and trying to focus on the 2-3 things that, would probably help them, people are unable to do, and which is also called the monkey mind. We are unable to tame these constant thoughts. And I know a lot of friends, including myself, who's tried to lean towards meditation, but it is not so easy unless until you understand what meditation entails.
Right.
So coming from someone like you, who's such a learned person and who does this on an ongoing basis, please help us understand what is meditation and help us, understand how it can help us in our lives.
Yeah. I mean, meditation, it's kind of like, it's like exercise for the mind. I mean, just like we exercise our body to be healthy, and there's so many different kinds of exercises, some to build stamina, some to build strength, some to build flexibility. Like that, there's different exercises for the mind. Like we definitely need, we can learn language to exercise our mind, or learn a new skill like music or something. But all those things, of course, they benefit our mind in different ways. But if we're really concerned about bringing peace in our mind and generating like loving kindness, generating compassion, generating more, empathy for others, generating more wisdom about how the mind works, then there's no question that meditation is the best way. Because basically, meditation is when we take time we place our body in a way that we don't have to pay attention to our body for the time being. We can just look within at our own mind, and then we do so with a positive motivation. Not just to become more famous or gain more power or gain magical powers or something, but basically with the motivation to become a better person, so that I can be a force of positive change in the world, essentially. And then, we practice learning to focus our attention, concentrate on one object, so that whatever we're doing in life, we can be fully present in doing that in the moment. And then we also look at, what are causes of disturbance and suffering, misery in my mind, what are causes of happiness in my life, and how can I increase, the causes of satisfaction and happiness within my own mind. Like loving kindness is one of the best sources of happiness. When we have the attitude, may I be well, may I be happy, may my friends and family, may they be well, may they be happy. May all sentient beings, whoever I meet, whoever I see or speak with, may they be well and happy. If we can generate that attitude, so that it becomes automatic and it just arises all the time, then it's a continual source of joy for ourselves.
But it is very easy, but for people like us, the mere mortals like us, it's very difficult to practice, thinking well for everyone, thinking well all the time. So how do we, definitely we can't be like you, but how can we aspire to?
I'm just an ordinary person. There's nothing special about me. I mean, anything special I have, which I don't really, it's all come about through the kindness of my teachers. And like the Buddha said, he cannot wash away our suffering like washing away dirt. He can't pull us up out of samsara, like picking someone up off the ground. He can't transfer his realizations into the mind of others. He can only help by teaching the Dharma, right? So I've only benefited by listening, finding qualified gurus like His Holiness the Dalai Lama and others, and listening to what they have to say. And then the most difficult part is we have to put it into practice ourselves.
So how do you do that?
Well, by meditating every day,
Okay.
That's what I was saying. Meditation is like exercise. If you don't do it every day, exercise to really change your health, you have to at least do, a few hours a week. So best if you can do an hour every day or so. So meditation is the same. You have to do, if you can do 30 minutes in the morning, 30 minutes every evening, or, even at least, 4 or 5 times a week. Then you'll start to see change in your mind.
So what are the tips or techniques? What are the best things that you could share with us so it can help all of us?
Sure. So the first, when I'm teaching at different Dharma centers, like Ling, most people come because they have a lot of anxiety, stress, confusion, distraction in their mind, and they want to learn how to change that, right? So they want to know about meditation. So the first thing is learn how to sit. Sit. You can sit cross-legged on the floor in a comfortable way. That is a very stable position, right? And then you can leave your body at ease while you meditate. Then you turn your attention in, and then try to focus your attention like on your breath, or just watch the mind for a few minutes to get some concentration. We have to learn how to focus our attention on one object of meditation. And then, think about if there's something bothering you, like you're angry at someone, or you're really irritated at your husband or your wife or one of your children, for example. Then just think about that in a very peaceful way. Like, what is going on with me? Why am I so why am I reacting to them that way? Do other people react to them the same way? Did I always react that way in the past? Maybe it's you're maybe under a lot of stress, or maybe something else is irritating you about them. So when they say something else, then you overreact to it. And then think about, well, how can I change the way we react? Do I care about them or not? And if I do, then how can I express that more and not get so? And can I be more forgiving? Do I have maybe unrealistic expectations about how they should act? Maybe there's something happening in their life that's disturbing them and making them act that way that I'm not really allowing for. Maybe my expectations about how they should behave are unrealistic. So trying to revise my expectations. So there's all different kind of ways. We need to think from many, many different angles about our own behavior, the behavior of others, and find how we can access our real caring about the person rather than acting as if we don't care about the person, which is hurtful to them, and also we don't feel good about ourselves when we act in a way that's hurtful to others.
That's really true. I mean, that's really true. That's what happens to most of us. I think 99% of us.
Yeah.
So, that's really true.
Yeah, we can all be, we all want to be a good person, right?
Absolutely.
But sometimes we just come up short because we don't know how to deal with situations. We don't have the resources to deal with, people, maybe insulting us, or us getting, tired, or people making a lot of demands on us that we feel are not fair. And then, we feel like just kind of overwhelmed by all these challenges and don't know how to deal with them. So sometimes, just sitting quietly on our own and, calming down the mind, and then thinking about things in a more kind of objective, more kind of methodical way can help us. We all have a lot of wisdom inside that we don't access because we don't really give ourselves a chance. We spend our life so like rushing around and distracted. So one really fascinating thing through meditation that you see is that we sit quietly and really sometimes pray, pray for assistance, pray for insight, and then it helps just unlock so much wisdom in our mind, and then we find new ways to deal with difficult relationships and difficult situations at work or with the family. And then we try to put that into practice, and we see we can have results, very good results.
That's a very good perspective to have. And earlier when we were discussing, you mentioned, about Dalai Lama's teaching, and you spoke about empathy, And one of the business leaders that I really look up to is Satya Nadella. He's the CEO of Microsoft. And when he was, I watched one of his interviews, and when he was contending for the role of the CEO of Microsoft, one of the reasons he was chosen was because of his personality trait that he possessed very highly over the other individuals, and that was empathy. And he himself talks really a lot about it. I just want to understand, personally, when I do struggle to be empathetic to everyone. So I just want your perspective on it and your take on how we can, inculcate empathy all times for all individuals.
Well, one way, is to identify that empathy is important and why it's important. Because if people don't think something is important, then they won't try to develop that quality, that skill. So I think, there's an excellent book came out like 25 years ago called Emotional Intelligence by Daniel Goleman. And that's one of the main traits he identifies in, because there's many people, like, say in the business world that are really intelligent, and they can learn a lot of information, and they know how to do a lot of modeling and understand how the markets work, and where are good business opportunities. But something that really distinguishes a person from being a capable leader versus not is empathy. Because when we have empathy, it means basically empathy is when when I can feel some degree of what you're feeling. So I know kind of how you're thinking a little bit and what's going on in your life, and and then if I can have a sense of how you feel, how another person feels, then I know how to relate to you in a way that you feel like I understand you. So we generate some rapport. So when we have rapport with another person, then we can communicate so much better. We come to understanding, and then we develop trust, and then on that basis we can work well together. So if a person doesn't have empathy, then people don't trust them, people don't feel like they want to work with them, and so their productivity is very low. Right? So the way we develop empathy basically is by, first of all, understanding that, first of all, understanding that others are the same as us, and that they basically want happiness and they don't want suffering. And then really sincerely being concerned about others, and recognizing we have to give our attention that we don't understand others. Sometimes we assume that we know how everybody works around us, but that just blinds us to the actual fact. So we have to understand that we don't know how everybody around us kind of operates, and really observe and talk to them, and watch their body language, watch their facial expressions, see how how they react in different situations, and really be interested to understand people around us better. And then we can learn how to, with this person I have to be very calm and speak gently. With this person, to get the message across, I have to speak quite forcefully and directly. So when we know how to deal with different people, then we know how to work with them, with many different kinds of people together effectively.
Sure, and just help me understand, because I would love to understand this more from you. What if, we are all, we learn from our past, and what if someone has been very unkind to us in the past? Then how do we then, inculcate empathy for that particular individual? So, what's your view on that?
Well, I mean, usually we have to put ourselves in the other person's shoes. So if someone's been very unkind to us in the past, well, first of all, we can easily be very judgmental and say, how could that person be so bad? And we feel quite righteous ourselves. I would never do something like that.
Yeah.
But then, oftentimes, we overlook our own mistakes.
Yeah.
So one place to start is think, well, have I ever been unkind like that to someone else in the past? And most of us will find, yeah, we have. We've all made a lot of mistakes, and sometimes we don't treat people in a way that we want to be treated. Right? So then, if we see that I've made that mistake, similar mistake in the past, then it's the first step in being able to forgive that person who was unkind to us. And then another way we can think is, we'll try to actually put ourselves in that person's shoes. Like, why were they unkind to them? Why, could I imagine myself acting that way? And what are things that might provoke me to act that way? So then, if we can imagine what might have provoked that person to act that way towards me, maybe they misunderstood something that we were saying or doing, or maybe someone else maybe they had really unkind parents, or maybe they were just really tired and stressed at that point, and they, easily provoked. Who knows? But if we can imagine being in their shoes, then it also makes like a gateway for us to kind of be more forgiving towards the person. And then we think, is that person happy? Usually when people are being unkind to us, at that moment, they're not happy themselves. If they were happy, they wouldn't be treating us in a kind of disrespectful or kind of miserable way. So then if we recognize that also that person, they have a lot of confusion, maybe unhappiness in their own life, then we can develop compassion and think, oh, I wish that person was happy. I wish that person was free from the different kind of problems they experience. So then in those different ways we can try to generate empathy and generate concern for the well-being of that person. Because if that person was completely kind of at peace in their own mind, then they wouldn't be harming us and other people.
Yeah, that's pretty true. And I think we all tend to cling on to any negative experience we may have, right? And we tend to focus more on that instead of the positive things that may be happening around us. So how can we be more in the present? Definitely one of the tools would be to meditate. But other than that, what else would you suggest that would help us be more in the present at all times? And or
one thing just to add about a person who's been unkind to us is to think, as long as we hold resentment in our own mind, the resentment is making us unhappy.
Yeah.
It's not doing anything to change their behavior.
True.
We're just making ourselves unhappy. So the quicker we can just forgive the person, then the quicker we bring peace, and kind of well-being in our own mind. We make space for happiness in our own mind. So it benefits us as well.
So how can we forgive those who harm us?
Well, like I was saying, one is to think that they're actually harming. Maybe they don't realize they're harming us, or they're harming us because they themselves are suffering. Right? That's why they're harming us.
Absolutely.
So if they weren't suffering, they wouldn't be harming us. Just like usually when we're very happy, people can say whatever they want to us, and it doesn't bother us at all.
Yeah,
we're not going to react.
Yeah.
But when we're really tired, and we're kind of fed, there's so many things going on, you know, like at work and the family, and we're just kind of fed up with things, then even someone maybe smiles at us in the wrong way, and we get upset. You know, what are you doing? Why are you looking at me like that? Okay.
Absolutely.
Even they're just smiling at us,
Yeah.
you know? So we can see that why is it we do things that harm other people? Because there's so much going on in our own life that that person doesn't know about. But then we just are fed up. So we're at a place that we can't react. We can't, you know, react to people in a positive way. So that person who harmed us, they're probably in the same. There's probably so many things going on in their life that we don't know about, that they're just acting like that, and it has nothing to do with us. Actually,
That's a
very compassion.
Yeah, that's a very fair perspective to have. And, you know, maybe I'm going to ask you a very direct question.
But hold on, your other question was how to be more present in the present moment.
Yeah.
So one way, I think one helpful thing is to just recognize that our life, all of our life only happens in the present moment. Like all the moments, everything that's happened in the past is past, it's gone, it's never going to come again. It's just like a dream we had last night. It's gradually disappearing, and before long it will just be a distant memory. And the future, of course, says we don't know what's going to happen in the future. So all of our life that ever is going to happen is only happening in the present moment. So if we spend our time worrying about the future, we're just being distracted and from enjoying the present moment. And if we spend our time thinking and dwelling on the past, also, I mean, of course, there's a lot we can learn by thinking about the past, but it's a distraction from being fully present in the present moment. So it's kind of like if we think too much about the past and the future, it's kind of like being a person at a family get-together who's just going around taking photos. They're always looking through this kind of this contrived lens, and they're not really able to, you know, give their full attention to enjoying the time with their family, right? So being in the present moment, then we can enjoy, you know, our own perceptions. We can enjoy the people we're with. You know, we can enjoy, you know, what we see, what we hear, what we taste, and life becomes so much more enjoyable. So just knowing that then is like encourage us to you know, check our mind again and again. Am I really present? Am I really, you know, enjoying fully everything I'm experiencing now, or am I kind of distracted? Is my mind somewhere else?
Makes sense.
Yeah. So what's your next question?
Yeah, I mean, it's a hard one. So, you know, I want to ask you this, that do you think that Buddhism is another religious cult? Because, and do you think that it is really relevant in today's DNA and today's time when things are so fast-paced and we have so much information available, we have so many self-described spiritual healers, gurus, and meditation practitioners all around us. So do you think that it's still relevant in today's time?
True, yeah. Two good questions. Yeah, first of all, about being a religious cult or not, I think some of the things that are typical of a religious cult is that, well, one is that you're asked to just believe things without questioning. There's no room for questioning things. So Buddhism is very different in that way, and that actually the Buddha advised his followers to question everything he taught. Just like a goldsmith analyzes gold by cutting, rubbing, and burning. You know, before you buy gold, you want to be careful about what is the quality of gold, so you don't want to get cheated. So in the same way, the Buddha told his followers, analyze everything I taught, use your own reason, and compare to your own experience, and see if what I taught is true or not. So there's, in the Buddhist tradition, there's this total openness about people that we're welcome to question everything that any teacher teaches us, and we should question, because otherwise we end up believing a lot of things without knowing why, and then it's not a very stable belief. Then when things become difficult, then our whole palace of belief just collapses, which leads to more suffering. So in that way, I think, yeah, the Buddhism is not a cult, because also it's very logical and very based on reason and logic, which we can analyze for ourselves to see if it's true. Then, is it relevant in today's world? Then again, because Buddhism is so logical, then I think it's very relevant because it meshes easily with the scientific worldview. You know, for example, If I tell you, like, if you meditate on, generating more mindfulness and loving kindness for 3 months, if you do, say 3 hours every week for 3 months, that you'll feel better, you'll be a happier person. Now, these days, we can check that. There are many studies being done, by psychologists and neuroscientists, because we know, like, what are the brain correlates and what are the other physical symptoms that are correlated with unhappiness versus a sense of joy and happiness. So we can take measurements on a person at the beginning, then have them do like an 8-week course of meditation, mindfulness, or loving kindness, or compassion, or whatever, and then take measurements at the end, and also do interviews. Ask the person, how do you feel? At the beginning, there's psychological, measurement tests, kind of, and then the end. And you can see through studies that actually it does help, our mental health, meditation, and then many other techniques the Buddha taught. So, not to mention the Buddha's explanation about the ultimate reality of how everything exists, physical things, the mental world, that there is no, if you look for one thing, it's ultimately not findable. That's also it's also very similar to the modern view of physics. That if you look, we've been searching for the smallest particle, which is the component of all physical things in the world for so long, but we just keep finding smaller and smaller particles. So now many theoretical physicists say there is no smallest particle, but rather at the quantum or the subquantum level, things exist as just a pure energy, a wave or something. Whereas, when we look at the physical world around us, for example, we know that from studying about atoms. In atoms, there's a nucleus, which is made of protons and neutrons. Yeah, neutrons and protons, and then electrons are orbiting.
Yeah.
Most of the volume of an atom is just space. It's 99% empty space. But yet everything physical, like the table or our bodies, it doesn't look like that. We don't see 99% space. It looks like they're very solid things. So that's another way. Buddhism also teaches that, the way things actually exist is totally different than the way they appear. There's a big gap between the way things appear and the way we perceive them to exist and the way they actually exist. So like studying physics, for example, or chemistry, you can see that actually that's true by doing research.
So also, help me understand, like, what differentiates Buddhism so much from these New Age spiritual practitioners. They do lean back on a lot of philosophy and a lot of wisdom from Buddhism. But what's your take on all these?
Well, New Age spiritual philosophies, which are so many different flavors of kind of New Age presentations, usually they mix different traditions, mix some shamanism and mix some from Vedic or Hindu traditions, then mix something from the Buddhist meditation traditions, then mix some belief from the monotheistic traditions of Christianity and so forth. One difference is Buddhism is not a mix of a whole lot of beliefs. Everything that we teach in Buddhism is something that's taught by the Buddha, or the very pure followers of the Buddha. But also, I think, Buddhism is not theistic. There's no belief in a creator God, which many of the New Age traditions, because most people grew up in religious traditions where there is the idea of a creator God. So many of the New Age kind of presentations of spirituality, they hold on to that because they know that's something people are comfortable with. Whereas Buddhism, based on logic and reason, rejects the idea of a creator God, for different reasons. And another thing is that, Buddhism is not asking anyone just to believe based on, just because some charismatic person says so. Many charismatic teachers, it's like they ask people, not directly, but indirectly, they want people to believe what they're saying because they dress in a certain way, because they look in a certain way, because they make a certain impression on people. They make people feel a certain way around them. Which are all, they're important things, but if someone is, putting themselves up in an arrogant way, then that's already a basis to question, are they sincere in what they're teaching? Like, look at, again, as most of the Dalai Lama and most kind of valid Buddhist teachers, they're very humble. They're not putting themselves up. Rather, they're putting themselves down and saying, I'm just an ordinary person like you. I have no special powers. But the Buddha taught that, this is how to achieve happiness. This is how to reduce suffering. And I found it to be true. And I can explain to you what the Buddha taught, in a modern modern context, but you have to check for yourself if it really works for you or not.
That is profound. I mean, that is really, really awesome to hear. And, before we wrap up, I'd like to, understand from you your 3 top takeaways that, in your long time association with Ling and your studies, your Geshe studies, you have learned and you would want all our viewers to know and imbibe.
Sure. Yeah, the first thing I think I would like to just in my life experience, one of the most probably helpful lessons I've learned is that, the more you really, well, first of all, you have to use your life in a way that you enjoy. Find out things, look for things that you enjoy in life. If you enjoy doing something, do that. Follow that, that inclination to do things that you enjoy. Because if we're not happy, then we're not going to be very, beneficial to anybody else. Everybody wants to be happy. So if we're a miserable person, then we're not benefiting anyone. So if we're happy with the things that we're doing, then naturally that joy in life is infectious, right? It benefits people around us. So do things you enjoy, and then things that you enjoy, use to benefit others. If our concern is only about me and what I want and what I need and what I want to achieve, the mind is very narrow, very selfish, right? So nobody likes to be around a self-centered, egoistic person. So I think the best thing we can do with our life is use it in a way that brings joy, brings well-being to others, right? So for myself, I just naturally like meditating a lot. So then that's why I came to India to learn about meditation, so that I can teach with others, so that other people are interested. Not everybody's interested, but if there are other people interested, then I can help them, and then they can also experience something of the kind of joy that I find through meditating. Then the third thing is there's so many great role models around, amazing people, like Amala in Kerala, or Dalai Lama, or like Mother Teresa in the past, or Gandhi, or there's so many people that also I don't know about, or names don't come to mind, but in every city, in every country, that are really wonderful role models. So we should seek out really wholesome role models for that are the person that we want to be like, and then go meet them, talk to them, read the books that they wrote, and see what they're doing, and really try to become more like that.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So those 3 things, follow your bliss, as Joseph Campbell said, do things that you enjoy, try to use your life to benefit others, and seek out role models who are the kind of person that you want to be, and try to learn more about them and go meet them if you can.
That's awesome. So have you met your role models?
Yeah, of course. I mean, the Dalai Lama, before I met the Dalai Lama, I didn't think a person could be like that. So, I mean, there's a huge difference between studying about, how to be a better person, how to be enlightened, and then meeting someone who really embodies all those things you're talking about. When you meet that person, it's you realize, when I met my very first teacher, before I met the Dalai Lama, he was the abbot of a monastery in Nepal. Then, he made me feel in a way that I felt like I didn't know another person could have that kind of impact on me. And I didn't know another person could be like that they have that impact on other people. So, yeah, I think most of us, we underestimate what is possible for us to become. I think that's one of the saddest things in society and in most people's lives is we have low self-esteem about. Even, of course, in terms of a normal person's happiness, many people have low self-esteem. But even I think most ordinary people, compared to what is really possible to become as a human being, we grossly underestimate what is possible. Because His Holiness always says, Dalai Lama always says, I'm just an ordinary person. But everywhere you go, most people, they see that he's not. But then we all have the potential to become just like that. Maybe not in this life, or maybe not next life, but we have many, many, many lives that give us opportunity to continue becoming a better and better and better person. But we have to learn how. First of all, we have to ask, do past and future lives really exist? And then we have to ask, what is the potential of a person, of a sentient being to become? And what are the reasons for and against that?
That is so beautiful. And thank you for sharing, your true feelings and emotion. I think there was a lot of sentiment attached to it. and I'm so grateful for your time and imparting the wisdom. Your sheer presence has made a difference to my life. So I really, really thank you. I humbly thank you for this time, and you know, I hope that you've had a good time, and I hope that I continue to learn more from you, and you know, imbibe a lot of things that you mentioned into my life and practice it. And thank you so very much. I'm very, very grateful to you. Thank you so much. Thanks a lot. I'm very grateful. Thank you very much. Take care.